Hey everyone, today I'm going to talk about some small features I'd like to see come to Dead by Daylight, and I think could reasonably be added. I kinda want to keep my own expectations in check and not suggest things too large. Let me know what you think of these and what you would like to see come to the game too. Let's get into it. Ever since the release of Leatherface, I've always wanted to see the introduction of earnable or grindable cosmetics, a bit like what we currently have with Leatherface's other faces. If you didn't know, Leatherface has 4 different faces or masks he can put on that are earnable only through playing the game and hooking one of the 4 original survivors 25 times respectively. Once you've hooked them 25 times, you get their face as a mask that you can then use as a cosmetic for Leatherface. It's a really cool system, and it baffles me that this hasn't been used again, because it's such a good idea, and I think genuinely a compelling reason to play a certain character. It's a small but rewarding passive goal you can always have in the back of your head, an extra little thing to collect whilst you play the game. These masks for Leatherface are nothing big, but it's really cool that they're locked behind this wall of requiring you to play him, rather than just going to the store and buying them. It's a visual show of, hey look, I've played Leatherface a bunch, and it's something I think a lot of people would greatly welcome for other killers, and survivors also. They could even tie these special earnable cosmetics to stuff like the adepts, or the achievements, where you have to use a killer's power a certain amount of times successfully. For survivors it could be passive challenges, like complete 100 generators whilst playing as Cheryl, or run the killer for 10,000 seconds as Bill. Even if these earnable cosmetics were something simple like a reskin of one of the character skins, I think it'd still be worth it, just to have that little extra goal to complete on the side, something that isn't just opening the store and clicking purchase. This next one is probably the least small feature, but revamped custom games are something I really badly want. Currently, custom games are very awkward and don't exactly have the best range of options. One of the major issues is having to have at least 2 people to play a custom game. You can't load in solo and play on your own, and you also don't have the option to play with bots outside of the tutorial mode, which is quite restricted. One thing that bothers me currently is that I can't just hop into a custom game and mess around with a new killer or power or build I've made. I instead have to go into a live game and probably get absolutely smashed, making it really hard to test what I want to test. Customs of course give you lots of options as everything is unlocked too, meaning if you're fairly new and you're unsure of the perks to aim for, you can test them out in customs and then set your mind to the one you want. So if we get bots for example, you could actually simulate a relatively similar game to live servers whilst testing out perks you might want to get. Another thing that would be great for customs is just more options. I would love to see different options like being able to buff certain perks to have double the effect, or alternately restrict their usage. It would be great too if there was settings where you could make a power's cooldown really low, or exhaustion recover in a few seconds, or all movement speeds can be doubled. That way you could have different game modes and have more flexibility. A custom game is meant to be custom, it's meant to be customizable to your preference, so I'd really like to see some kind of overhaul to the current fairly bare bones one. This I imagine would also be great for tournaments, being able to set and enforce rules properly, as well as being able to essentially kill switch stuff within the custom game to make the rules clearer and UI easier to navigate. So yeah, a general improvement to customs is something I would really love to see. This is quite a small one, but one I really like the idea of, which is more survivor and killer interaction. This mainly applies to licenses really, but there are a few exceptions for original characters too. Currently one of the only survivor and killer interactions is Nemesis saying stars when he moris or finds Jill in a locker, to reference their rivalry in Resident Evil 3. How cool would it be to have special dialogue or interactions with different characters? Say, when Michael stalks Laurie, he tilts his head or something, or when Trickster hooks Yunjin, he mutters something different, specific to her and their relationship. Or when Pig does her mori, she hesitates briefly when doing it on tap, as she notices the scar already on his neck. You know, just really little things like that, just to kind of flesh everything out a bit more, especially in the trials. It's not like these things will be happening particularly often, so when they do you'll just be like, oh, that's pretty cool. There could even be random interactions like Blight getting more excited or loud when he chases a survivor wearing one of the blighted cosmetics, or Oni roars when he chases someone wearing the prestige clothing because of the blood. Or if a killer goes to their own map, they have small interactions with things. Say Hag passes by the shackles in Grim Pantry, then she growls, or when Hillbilly passes the shed he was kept in, he grumbles or sounds saddened. Again, just little things. Customizable loading screens are another another quite small thing that would work so well. Currently we have quite a standard and boring loading screen, with the occasional tip at the bottom, which, like in most games, is pretty useless, and it's just there as something to read. They're typically tailored to newer players. So, first suggestion, again another one that quite a few people have mentioned before, but being able to use the key art for the chapters and characters as your loading screen image. If you go onto the Dead by Daylight website, you can scroll through the hundreds of amazing pieces of artwork that have been done to promote different collections or releases. Just make this part of the chapter bundle when you buy it as an additional bonus, and then make them usable as your loading screens, because all of this art looks amazing and it's really going to waste as we don't even see it in game. My other suggestion for the loading screens would be to change the tips to do different things. Say you could select lore quotes to come up, or stat trackers that flash your different stats up, like total time on a gen throughout your DBD career. Potentially the devs could even run some form of competition where people could submit their own funny experiences with the game, or enjoyable moments, that could then pop up in the loading screen for other players to read. We know they totally can do similar stuff to this too. As for the anniversary events, they always have these great quotes from the devs and a cool anniversary image to pair with it, and it's honestly so nice. Okay, finally let's talk about better prestige rewards. Currently there is essentially no reward for prestiging. It's actually more of a setback, I would argue, unless you really like a particular survivor's prestige look. When prestiging, you earn a cosmetic, which looks like the base cosmetic for the character, only covered with blood. This often isn't very worthwhile, especially with the ridiculously large grind this game has already. The cosmetics themselves also look pretty average in a lot of cases, and in my opinion these sets are only worth getting really for characters who don't have other outfits available, like Freddy, Quentin, Nemesis, or characters with less like Myers or Leon and Jill. So I'd really like to see there be more of a motive to prestige, or just simply remove the winding back of progress after resetting, but keep the bloody cosmetic reward. Many have suggested implementing the bloody prestige look for every outfit the survivor owns. That way you can wear your favorite outfit, but also have the blood covering it. I understand however that this is apparently very hard to implement, as if the devs were to, they would have to individually go over each cosmetic and place the blood texture on top of it, which I imagine would be very time consuming. I think something like a small BP increase for each prestige, say a 5% increase to 15% increase for characters you use from prestige 1 to 3 would work. Alternately, some kind of lump sum of iridescent shards as a reward for resetting your progress. I honestly think this system doesn't need a complete overhaul, but not losing your stuff when you prestige and then maybe gaining a slight BP increase when playing a prestige character would be a suitable reward for prestiging them. Alright, well that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed, and be sure to drop your own thoughts down below. Thanks, and goodbye.